Let me come back to use callback because it is important to understand this. Use callback allows you to save a function so that you can reuse it. Now you had to specify this strange dependency array. And I don't know about you, but initially you might think, what do I need this for? My function has always the same logic across re-render cycles. Well, keep in mind that in JavaScript, functions are closures, which means they close over the values that are available in their environment. Now again, if you're not 100% sure about closures, attached you find some resources that get you started with them because you need to know closures to fully grasp how React works. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say we have a second button which enables the toggling functionality. So a button that makes the other button work. Allow toggling. For that we need a new state. Allow toggle and set allow toggle, and initially that's false. And we have a new function here, allow toggle handler. We could again use callback, but for the moment, let's omit it. Doesn't matter here. Here, I want to call set allow toggle and set it to true. So I always set it to true here. This does not toggle the toggle value. It just enables toggling for the other button. Because now, and that's the gotcha, I will not only bind the allow toggle handler here to the new button. Instead, I will use the allow toggle state snapshot in my other function here to check whether I'm allowed to set show paragraph. So now here I will check if allow toggle is true, and only if it is, set show paragraph will be called. So the show paragraph state will only be updated if toggling is allowed. And now I will also reuse show paragraph here to replace my hard-coded false value. With that, if the app reloads, you will see that if I click the toggle paragraph button, nothing happens. Now, if I click allow toggling, now the other button should do something, and when we click it, we also should see app running. However, if I click it, still nothing happens. And that's because functions are closures in JavaScript and because we're not using use callback correctly right now. We even got some yellow squiggly lines here to make us aware of that problem. At least I got them here. Now, what is the problem though? Functions in JavaScript are closures. That means when a function is defined, which happens when the app function runs in this function's case, when that function here is defined, JavaScript basically locks in all the variables that we're using in there. All the variables that are defined outside of the function that we are using, I should say. In this case, the allow toggle variable. That is a variable or a constant coming from the app function, and I'm using it inside of this function. Therefore, JavaScript closes over that constant and basically stores that constant for that function definition. That means the next time this function here, the toggle paragraph handler, is executed, this stored variable will be used. And with that, the value of that variable at the point of time it was stored. This generally is perfect because this allows us to use variables from outside the function in the function and call that function at any point of time we want, which is exactly what we want for a function that we bind to a button. The problem with that and with use callback, however, is that with use callback, we're telling React to store that function and exactly that function somewhere in memory. Now, when the app function is re-evaluated and re-executed because the toggle state changed, then React will not recreate this function because we're using use callback where we told React that we don't want to recreate it under all circumstances. So therefore, the allow toggle value React stored for our function is still the old allow toggle value from the first time the app component was executed, not the most recent one. Because JavaScript, as I just explained, stored allow toggle, this constant, when it created that function here. And that's of course a gotcha here, that's a problem. There are cases where we actually want to recreate a function because values being used in that function that are coming from outside the function might have changed. And here we have such a case. So here we would want to add allow toggle as a dependency in our dependency array. And that tells React that we generally want to store that function. But whenever allow toggle changes and it has a new value, we want to recreate that function and store that new recreated function. And this ensures that we always use the latest allow toggle value inside of that stored function. If allow toggle does not change, however, then we don't recreate the function. And with that, if I save this, if we go back, now if I click toggle paragraph, nothing happens initially. However, if I now click on allow toggling, now we'll see that if I now click toggle paragraph, we do get our paragraph and all the expected output. It's also worth noting, of course, that for toggle paragraph, we see button running, but we only see it once. And that's actually our second button where React Memo has no effect because we're not using use callback on the allow toggle handler. We would see it twice if the button for toggle paragraph would also be re-rendered. But that's not the case because our use callback call here ensures that we're not rebuilding this function every time. We only did that once when allow toggle changed. Now I know these are concepts that can be confusing. In the end, it's not so much React though, it's more JavaScript, and you have to understand how closures work, and you have to understand that primitive reference value concept. If both is clear, it's absolutely clear how React works. And I hope that this and the last lectures could help you understand that and made it clear how use callback works, how functions are re-executed, and how React Memo works and how that works together with use callback.